Please be seated.
Hello, Your Honor.
Hello.
This is a case of Downing versus Jones.
Thank you, Jerome. Good day, everyone. Good day. Mr. Downing, you are here today in court to finally prove to the defendant that you are not her daughter's biological father. You claim to be in debt because of this paternity issue and plan to contest that debt with your hometown court once the results are revealed. Is that correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
Ms. Jones, you are certain that the plaintiff fathered your daughter and claim his only motive is to get out of paying the child support he owes. Is that correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
Mr. Downing, when did you start to doubt that the defendant's daughter was actually your biological child?
From the very beginning. Ms. Jones and I were never in a committed relationship. We dated on and off for a little bit, and we never really had any type of relationship.
But you had sex?
Yes, ma'am.
Were you using protection at the time?
No,
Okay,
yeah.
so that is a recipe for
Making a baby, yes.
making a baby.
He was the type, if he would call me or whatever, I would get up and go be with him.
And
I
so-
was more set to act with him than anybody. Through my high school year, I was with this man numerous of times. I mean, it's so many times I can't even count. I mean...
Wow. At the time Brittany was conceived, I don't recall us being sexually active. I can remember when we were younger, we left church one time and we went down to, seriously, and that was the first time I can remember being intimate with Miss Jones.
First time you remember being intimate with Ms. Jones was after church?
Yes.
Okay.
So you don't remember none of them nights after the club? Picking me up?
That's what we used to call the booty call hours.
Yeah.
Okay.
You don't remember none of them nights?
I don't remember any of those encounters
Really, Clint?
that you talk about me asking you to get out of bed to come be with me. I do not recall those days.
But you do admit to having a sexual relationship,
Yes, I do.
and you did not
yes,
use
we were
protection.
sexually active.
Okay.
Okay.
So when Ms. Jones informed you she was pregnant, what happened?
She didn't inform me. I found out through a relative.
That is not true.
It's the
I
truth.
told Clint myself that I was pregnant, and his exact words were, "What you telling me for? It ain't none of mine." I did
Really?
tell him that.
You
and
smiling,
he was
Mr.
not
Downing.
in New York
Has your
at the time.
memory been revived?
That was not the case.
I did talk to him. I remember one time in particular, Clint and another guy pulled up beside us, and I got out the car and I went to the car and I knocked on the window, and he rolled the window down. He was like, "What you want?" I said, "I just want to let you know, I just left the hospital." He went, "What you telling me for?" He cranked up the car and he left. And
Do you remember this, Mr. Downing?
Absolutely not.
So wait a minute, so your recollection really is you never have another conversation or another encounter?
Nope. I left and went to school. I went to the University of Tennessee. I left Florida, moved to Tennessee, Knoxville, and pursued my education.
So when someone told you they think somebody's having your baby, you just decide, well, it ain't mine. In my mind, it's not mine.
Mm-hmm.
And so you feel like you have no further responsibility to it.
That's correct.
To only find out later that's not the case.
Absolutely.
I took a picture over there to your mom. Now, if she didn't tell you, I don't know why not. But I did take a picture over there to your mom.
To my mother,
Of
you
it.
took a picture.
Yes, I did.
So, Brittany, I need to understand from you. Is Mr. Downing on your birth certificate?
Yes, Your Honor, he is. I have the proof.
I'd like to see that. All right. Brittany, you handed me your birth certificate.
Yes, Your
On this birth certificate, child's name, Brittany Chantel Starks. Father's name listed as Clinton Dowing.
That's incorrect. Downing. Like
Well,
Downing.
yes, I know that. So, did you sign this birth certificate?
No.
You just gave them the name, Miss Jones?
How Clint name got on that birth certificate, we had like 5 court dates. 5 of them. Clint never showed up for not one court
I'm in
date.
Knoxville, Tennessee,
Not one.
where I never got a letters telling me to come
All
to
the
court. I never was informed that I had a court date. I'm in
All the
Tennessee.
letters went to his mama house. He never showed up, not one.
So by default, he was listed as the father.
The
But
judge
it-
was like, Miss Starks, I'm tired of you coming in by yourself. He said, well, we're gonna call him Daddy. He said, you want his name on the birth certificate? I said, yes, sir. He said, okay, I'm gonna put his name on there. That's how Clint's name got on the birth certificate.
Okay.
And from that's when you found out you on child support now, because you now have had your name added to the birth certificate because you've been determined to be the legal father by default because you didn't show up for court.
I didn't find out that I was legal father until 94.
Really?
Yes.
What happened?
They started garnishing my wages out of the child support. That's when I found out I was legal father. I paid child support from 1995 until 2005, until she turned 18.
So for 10 years you paid child support.
Yes, I did.
And now you still are in arrears. This is what you presented to
I am in
this
arrears
court.
about 16, 17,000
Wow.
because of the years I didn't pay prior to.
Oh, absolutely, because you are legally obligated to pay child support from the day the child was born.
Right.
Even though you might not find out until she's 10 years old, those arrears are still going to attach, and many
Exactly.
men don't know that legal lesson as well. If you want more episodes of Paternity Court, make sure to subscribe and click on the notification bell.
Your Honor, can I say something?
Yes.
I wanted, from Mr. Downey, I wanted to know when they started to garnish his check, why didn't he step up to the plate and say anything about it? If someone's taking money out of my check, I'm gonna find out the reason why. I'm gonna say something.
Well, and that's a good question, Mr. Downing. At the point that you realized your wages were garnished, and did you do some investigation and figure out I've been added to a birth certificate for a child?
They told me that I was legal father, and I didn't contest it within a year. Therefore, in the state of Florida, after 1 year, you cannot contest paternity.
All right. So we know that paternity laws, they vary from state to state. And so you did call and you found out you were outside of that window of time you had to contest.
Right.
So at the point you realize I'm named the legal father of a child, I'm paying for this child, don't you say, I need to see this child, I want to meet this person?
I did meet her. When I initially met Brittany, her mother had called me on the phone and said, you need to talk to Brittany because Brittany's getting a little out of hand. And she was going through some teenage stuff and she wanted me to talk to her. Needless to say, Brittany wasn't trying to hear anything I said or her mother said at all. And I don't blame her, but it was just one of those things.
So wait, it's okay. No. So in that moment, you felt like she's coming to me as the father of this child.
Right.
Your Honor, how can you try to step up to me and tell me about my life when you don't even know me?
And I felt the same way. I felt the same way when Leslie asked me to speak to you at the time. And I didn't feel comfortable in talking to her, but because she requested it and because she was adamant that I'm your father, I felt an obligation to do so.
So because at that time you still felt like Ms. Jones felt you were the father, and even though you knew you were the legal father, you still didn't believe you were the biological father.
Exactly. I did not.
And at that time, when he came to talk to you, Brittany, your mother told you got to talk to your father. Did she say this is your biological father?
When my mom told me about Mr. Downing, she always would say that Mr. Downing would want to speak with me. Mr. Downing would want to talk to you. And I kind of would I'm being honest, I would shrug my shoulders and be like, I don't want to talk to him.
If she was so adamant about me being Brittany's father, why was it that she was telling her that this other man, Mr. Jackson, was her father?
Well, is that true, Ms. Jones? Did you tell?
I told Brittany it was a possibility. No.
She started to favor this family so much.
No, you
'cause
called
it just was
me.
like, were you involved with this guy? And she told me, yes, she was.
When you called me, I actually saw you in the streets, and you was like, oh, you been with Joe. I didn't deny it. I was like, yeah, I was with him once.
Why
okay?
would I confront
and
you
so
and
he
you
was
and I
like,
had no
that's who
relationship
you need
at
to
that
be
time?
calling. You need to leave me alone. That's who you need to be calling.
Why would I confront
Well,
you?
she's explaining why you would have confronted her, because she says you told her, well, if that's the guy, if you've been sleeping with that guy, that's the guy you need to be calling. So my question then becomes, Ms. Jones, this other gentleman, Mr. Downing does have an interesting point. If he believes from the beginning that this is not my biological child, I'm named the legal father, they're taking the child support from my check, but the child has a relationship with another man. Mm-hmm. And so, Brittany, did you call Mr. Jackson dad?
Yes, Your Honor, I do.
You do?
I do.
Mm-hmm. Did you believe your whole life that he was your biological father?
Yes, Your Honor.
Well, tell me about your relationship.
Me and Joe have an awesome relationship with each other. I love Mr. Jackson. He's always been a part of my life. At the time, when I was 1 year old, my mom married my sister's father, and he was in the military. So we traveled around to different countries. When I would come home for the summertime, when I was out of school, Mr. Jackson would come and pick me up and spend time with me. I would spend time with my grandmother, a few cousins at the time, and prom, just throughout my whole life. At one time, we were living in Georgia. He came to visit me. He was just very involved in my life, always would call and check up on me and make sure that I had everything I needed. So I consider him as my father.
And you believe he was your biological father, not just a man that was being nice, but you believe he was your biological father.
Yes, Your Honor, I believe he was my biological father. My mom did tell me that it was a possibility that Mr. Downing could be my dad. And I told my mother that I did not want Mr. Downing to be my father.
So, Mr. Downing, this was also fueling your doubts because even though you don't remember the conversation per se, it sounds like you were somewhat aware that there was also another man, which also fueled your doubt as to you being the biological father.
Well, this is the first time I'm ever hearing Miss Stark say that she didn't want me to be her dad. This is the first time I've ever heard that. Because as she's become an adult, we've actually developed a different type of relationship. She sent me some Easter pictures of the grandkids.
Your Honor, Mr. Jackson and myself, we look just alike. And I'm sticking to that. I feel like Mr. Jackson is my father.
Ms. Starks, you believe Mr. Jackson is your biological father.
Yes, Your Honor.
Your mother is telling Mr. Downing that she believes he is your biological father.
Yes, Your Honor.
When do you begin to question whether or not Mr. Jackson is your biological father?
Your Honor, I spoke to my mom about it, and she told me, Brittany, you know, I'm just gonna be honest with you. I know how you feel, but I feel like Mr. Downing is your father, and that's just something that I never wanted to accept. I just didn't want it. I didn't want to have no parts to do with it because who, you know, will want someone to be their dad that never wanted to be their dad? I didn't want, you know.
And I agree. I absolutely agree. But it had nothing to do with you personally. It had nothing to do with you personally. It was all about your mom and misinforming me and the people in that we were associated with. So I'm not saying you're wrong. What I'm saying is your mom has been wrong all these years by not clearing the air. And I've asked her to do this over and over again.
Wait a minute. By not clearing the air, you and Brittany had a relationship. You could have been got a
Brittany
DNA
said we
test.
didn't have a relationship. Well, you called me 2 years ago telling me that Joe had taken Mr. Jackson had taken a DNA test, and it came back that he was not the father.
Well, hold on now. Hold on. I want to understand this. Brittany, you believe Mr. Jackson was your biological father.
Yes, Your Honor.
But at some point, you took a DNA test?
Yes, Your Honor. I had the paper.
You brought the results?
Yes.
I'd like to see those. Now, was this an at-home test? Did you all go in person to a laboratory? Did you go through the court?
Your Honor, the person that he's with reached out to me. At the time, Mr. Jackson was sick, and he was in the hospital for a long period of time. And she felt like that I needed to establish some paternity, that I should know that he's my dad, just in case anything happened in the future. So she told me that they were gonna purchase an at-home test and that she was gonna send it to me through the mail. And she did. And I did whatever the instructions told me to do.
The swab, and you
swab.
sent it back?
I sent it back.
But you all were living in different states.
Yes, Your Honor.
And then the results came back, and you've handed me the results, and it comes back that there is a 0% probability of paternity.
Yes, Your Honor.
Do you want to watch Paternity Court on TV? Go to paternitycourt.tv to find your local listings. This document you've handed me, it doesn't have any names on it.
No, Your Honor, and I don't believe it. I didn't trust the test. I didn't believe it because it just was, I know at the time that the person he was with did not care for me. So I felt like the test could have been tampered or anything could have happened with the test.
So the bottom line is you never had any part to play nor have any information about the chain of custody. You weren't there.
No.
You really don't know. And so in your mind, you don't really know what happened on the other end of this test.
Yes, Your Honor.
But you have feelings that there may have been some people in his life that wanted this test to turn out negative.
Yes, Your Honor, because I had to reach out to him, or to her, to find out what the results were, because she would not call me. And when she told me, she screenshotted a picture of the results to me. So I never officially had the paper. And that's when she told me, well, he's not your dad.
You still believe Mr. Jackson is your biological father?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. Well, this court has retested Mr. Jackson. And we actually have the results from Mr. Jackson. And I'd like to get them now.
Here you go, Your Honor.
These results were prepared by DNA Diagnostics, and they read as follows. In the case of Downing versus Jones, when it comes to 29-year-old Brittany Starks, it has been determined by this court